Now, there are those that claim that the law of God has been nailed to the cross. It's no longer binding. We are no longer under the law anymore. People make that claim. But friends, if that is true, if it is true that the law of God has been done away with, if it's true that the law of God can be changed, then that means that Jesus did not have to die, if that was true. Because think about it. If God did not want his son, if he wanted to spare his only begotten son, and it was possible for him not to endure the torture and the death of the cross, he could have simply said, hey, I don't want my son to go through this. If it's possible, I will change the law. But is that what God did? Did God esteem the life of his son more than the law of God? The very fact that Jesus had to die on the cross tells us, my friends, that God could not change the law. The law of God cannot change. The fact that the cross of Calvary reveals to us the penalty that was paid for the transgression of sin for all mankind shows us that the law of God cannot be changed. When we transgress the law, there are consequences. That's what the cross should help us bear in mind. Every time we are tempted, every time we are trying to justify why we should succumb to that temptation or to that cherished sin in our lives, we need to behold the cross of Calvary and say, that's what my sin costs. And as a result, we should have a hatred for sin. We should have a hatred, but the thing is, we don't have a hatred for sin. We dabble in sin. We try to see, how far can I go without going too far? You know, some people say, well, you know what? The Ten Commandments, God changed them. God took away the Ten Commandments. He replaced it with the two commandments. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's all we need to live by. Love. So Jesus gave us new commandments, that's what they're saying, in replacement of the 10. Let me ask you this. Are those two commandments of love the Lord your God with all your mind, heart, and soul strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, are those really new? Some people argue that. Some people say, oh, the 10 commandments are done away with. Jesus has brought us into a new covenant. Just two commandments. Love. It's all about love. But let's take a look. If that is true, let's take a look at Deuteronomy 6:5. We're going to the Old Testament, notice. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. Wow. Word for word, Jesus was quoting Moses when he was talking about how we should have love for God with all thine heart, all thy soul, with all thy mind. So you thought it was new. But it's not really new at all, is it? Let's take a look at Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. Okay, so it says, in verse 18, thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There you go. So are these commandments new? No, but yet Jesus quotes them directly from the Old Testament. He quotes these two great encompassing principles of love. He's not replacing the 10 Commandments, but he is actually bringing out the principles by which the 10 Commandments are based upon. Love for God and love for our fellow man. Romans chapter 13, verse 10 says that love is the fulfilling of the law. And so, to say that we don't have to keep the 10 Commandments anymore is to say that we don't want to love God or our fellow brothers and sisters anymore, which doesn't make sense. And also, how does that make sense when you say, I am just going to love, but I'm not going to keep the 10 Commandments? So if you want to go to that direction and that justification, you can then say, I will love my neighbor, but that means I can still kill them. Does that make sense? Anybody knows that that does not make sense, and that's not what Jesus is saying here. He's not negating the 10 Commandments. He's bringing out the deep principle by which these commandments are founded upon. Hello friends, thanks for tuning in today. This ministry is dedicated to presenting Bible truths, and we are local in the Ann Arbor and Plymouth area, and so we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment or a Bible question below the video. And for more up-to-the-minute updates, hit that subscribe button and share with your friends. May God bless you. We'll see you soon.